It's week one, and we're ready to make some start-sit questions. To do that, we brought in the unofficial official doctor of all FF Twitter. Jeff is in the house, and we are here to talk about 16 players that you need to know about, their status, update. Tell us what we need to know. Jeff is here to do that. Jeff, we're going to start with quarterbacks, and we're going to jump right in with Carson Wentz, who made a lot of headlines with a foot injury that nobody had ever heard of before. At least you have. We haven't. Tell us what you know about that foot injury and what it could mean for him on Sunday.
Yeah, so it was roughly about 5-6 weeks ago. A lot of people thought the timeline given was 5 to 12 weeks for a little sesamoid bone or avulsion in his foot. They did a minor surgery. He was actually back on the field in roughly 2 weeks after surgery, and he looked pretty good. And sure enough, he's been cleared. So for injury risk purposes, I think he will be fine. There's low injury risk within the game as he's playing. So if you have to rely on Carson Wentz, I would start him. One quarterback leagues, I would kind of assume that you have a better quarterback with more upside. I anticipate Indianapolis to rely on the run game. But if you have to start him, I think he's safe.
Great. We'll move on to Joe Burrow. You were one of the first people that said you thought he would be ready for week one. Many people thought he might have missed his entire season, but hey, he's going to start week one. You were right. What else do you know about this injury? Any limitations, anything, any reason that we shouldn't be confident putting him in our lineups?
I would say for the Konami code, can't even say that, Konami code. I do think his ceiling is lowered for the first half of the season, if not at least the first third of the season. Again, similar situation to Wentz. If you're in a one quarterback league and you don't have a higher upside play for this week, you're playing him. You know, he's a safe play. I also think the injury risk within the game is low for Burrow. It's just he's going to have less rushing upside than he showed last year. Kind of similar to what we saw with Dak on Thursday.
Rooting for the Bayou Bengal to be throwing those footballs to his old buddy, Jamar Chase, and we'll see if they look any different to him or not this week. But let's move over to the running backs. We've got a few to talk about here. Josh Jacobs, he participated in practice on Thursday, but was sitting out with an undisclosed ailment. What do you know about that?
Yeah, Josh Jacobs has a toe injury. It hasn't been confirmed as turf toe, but it's at least a toe sprain. He missed 2 days of practice, and then he's been limited. He's a guy that he plays Monday night. I'm sure you probably do have a higher upside running back on your team. I would be sitting Josh Jacobs if I had him. Baltimore's defense is pretty tough, and the toe injury could very well limit his upside. Plus, they brought in Kenyon Drake. They also brought in Peyton Barber, who could steal some work if they don't feel like Jacobs is fully ready to go. So I'd be sitting Jacobs this week.
Speaking of toes, James Conner had turf toe surgery over the offseason. What's his status? Is he fully recovered from that at this point?
Yeah, he has not been showing up on the injury report, but James Conner's very much a player that he's a wait and see for me. He looked pretty rough in the preseason, like he was running through some mud. Similar to Jacobs, I'd be willing to bet you have some higher upside play versus using James Conner in your flex. I want to see. I think Chase Edmonds is the play this week. James Conner's a sit for me this week.
You always hate to see hamstring injuries for any of your players because it feels like those recur a lot. But Austin Ekeler came up with one, but he is expected to play according to Daniel Popper on Twitter. He did miss a lot of practice time. What are you doing with Ekeler?
I'm playing Ekeler. Ekeler is a guy who has at full health. He has top 5 upside. My buddy Adam Hutchinson, I think at the real Adam H on Twitter, he actually posted some great data that even someone who's a running back who's coming off a hamstring strain has roughly a 16% production hit or regression. So Ekeler, given his overall upside, even coming off the hamstring strain that he suffered on Monday and he was still able to practice through, he still carries running back 2 upside for me. So I'm playing him.
That's a great stat. I love that. Saquon Barkley over the offseason, obviously last year tore his knee up. Lots of going back and forth, comparing his quad size, his calf size, all these different things. We've talked about a ton of stuff with him over the offseason, but he's listed as questionable now for Sunday. I would much rather see him be a full go, but the questionable tag has me a little concerned. What about you?
Yeah, I posted about this too. This is a strange situation for me. You see guys like Joe Burrow, Nick Bosa coming off similar injuries and surgeries, and they're not even on the injury report. They're fully ready to go. So I don't know if this is Joe Judge playing mind tricks with Denver, or that staff is and the training staff is very conservative. So there may actually be some thought of either, we're not going to play him this week. We don't want to throw him in. I do think he plays, but I really do think he's on limited snaps this week, which makes it tough for me if I'm playing Saquon. He's a guy who, the highest variance of all these guys that we're talking about. He could go out there and get 20 points. He could go out there and get 8, So then comes the tricky part. You probably drafted him in the late first or early second round if you drafted recently. So do you play him? That's honestly up to you. I don't think there's re-injury risk. There is re-injury risk. There's just low re-injury risk for him. I think it's more usage risk. I think he's on limited snaps, and I'm willing to bet he'll see limited touches.
Means we're going to see a lot of Booker in a revenge game against Denver. So, but moving on to Detroit, DeAndre Swift is another one that we've talked about a lot. But according to the running backs coach, Deuce Staley, DeAndre Swift is expected to play in Sunday's opening game against the 49ers with no limitations. That was via Eric Woodard on Twitter. Are you confident in DeAndre Swift this weekend?
From an injury standpoint, I'm confident in DeAndre Swift. We have no idea how this Lions team is going to look. We assume Hawkinson is going to lead in targets. We assume DeAndre Swift's probably going to come in second. From an injury standpoint, he's a guy who I think I mentioned. I tweeted about. A lot of concern was being brought up on Twitter about his injuries. 3 weeks ago, he was out practicing and looking pretty good from a cutting standpoint, from a running drill standpoint, and then accepting contact as well in practice. So, and he's been doing that for full go for the last 2 weeks. So, I'm not concerned from an injury standpoint on Swift.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire had a weird ankle injury, maybe on the inside of his ankle, but he logged a full practice on Wednesday, and everything seems like he's ready to go. Any concern there?
Injury standpoint, nope. No concern on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think that injury got a little overblown. He's been full go for actually the last few weeks now.
Moving on to wide receivers, Kenny Golladay is not on the injury report for week 1. How about that? What do you think about Kenny?
Great for him. He's very much a wait and see for me. This has limited him for I should know the exact number of weeks, but pretty much all of preseason. And very much an injury. It's different than Ekeler. Ekeler has been able to get back to practice. It's cute. It's barely limited him. Galladay's, I could see it flaring up in game, and we don't even know. He's new to the Giants. We don't know how he's going to perform with Daniel Jones. So he's a sit for me.
Last couple of weeks have been really good for Courtland Sutton. Looks like he is coming around on his rehab. Anything that you think could be limiting him this weekend at all?
Only the connection with Teddy Bridgewater. I think Bridgewater is more likely to throw to the open guy. And if Sutton struggles with anything just in these first couple games, it's creating separation, being open. But from an injury standpoint, I think he'll be fine. I think he'll be able to, get some contested catches. So yeah, if you have to play Courtland Sutton, I think he's a safe play.
AJ Brown, one of the most exciting young wide receivers in the league, has had some issues with injuries. He told reporters on Friday that he's going to be good to go for the season opener, though, against Arizona.
Yeah, this is a guy who had surgery on both of his knees at the same time. It's more been a load management all off season, all preseason and camp. I've seen him cut, run, sprint. I mean, he's doing everything full go without issue. So I'm not concerned about AJ Brown.
Fire him up. Odell Beckham, Cleveland wide receiver Odell Beckham is questionable. His knee for the regular season opener against the Kansas City Chiefs. What do you think about that Q tag?
Yeah, this I think is some mind games from Kevin Stefanski. I think he does play, but Beckham's kind of like Kenny Golladay. He's a wait and see approach. See how he does in his first couple games. See how he moves. I think low re-injury risk coming off the ACL, but from a usage standpoint, I want to see how that rapport that he built with Baker.
Another hamstring and Brandon Aiyuk for your 49ers. There was definitely some limitations for him during the preseason and camp, things like that. Another young wide receiver we're excited about. How do you feel about him heading into this week against Detroit? Do they need to play him a lot?
Right. We'll see. Usage is going to be the question. Injury standpoint, he suffered it's already been reported, a mild hamstring strain roughly 3 weeks ago. I expect him to be fully beyond that, healed from that hamstring strain. And I don't expect it to limit him, but you're right. Will they need to pass? That's the question.
One of the ones that you said to add on here, which was interesting, I hadn't heard much about it, but DK Metcalf's calf strain, limited in practice yesterday. What do we know about that? Are you worried?
Not yet. This is one that we'll have to watch for. And if you're watching this, watch the show tomorrow morning because we'll have some more information in the actives, inactives. I expect DK Metcalf to be active, but he did pop up yesterday on the injury report with a calf strain and was limited in practice. So anytime it's that close to the game, you just want to watch those really closely and see if they're actually going to be active. And it very well could limit him in game. Similar to Ekeler, though, his upside is so high that he could get 3-4 catches and still pay off for you in a wide receiver 2 slot.
Right. Doesn't take much with him for sure. Another one who, is a deep threat, can do a lot of things and has gone under the radar that you asked to add on here was Darnell Mooney, who has a back injury. He was listed as questionable for Sunday's game against the Rams, according to Adam Hogue on Twitter. What do you know about that?
Yeah, he popped up on the injury report with a back injury on Monday. He was upgraded from did not practice to full yesterday. But these are tricky back strains. If it is anything related to the disc, it could flare up in game. So he's a risky play for me this week. I would probably sit Mooney.
Sit Mooney. Okay, so we have one tight end to talk about, and then we're going to let you out of here. Noah Fant and his knee. He's officially a go for the Broncos season opener on Sunday via Eric Dalala on Twitter. Any expectations that Noah Fant won't be just full 100% his athletic self this week?
Yeah, I mean, he's been limited for the last couple of weeks with it's listed as knee. I know beforehand it was listed or reported as a mysterious lower leg injury. He's been able to, he has been upgraded to full practice and they're saying he's good to go. My concern is Fant has entered games with these statuses before and then re-injured and left the game early. And the other question is, will Denver have to pass that much? How much of upside does Noah Fant have? So that's going to be the hard question, is looking at, okay, what tight end do I have that I could play over Fant given its risk? He does carry injury risk coming into this game.
Make sure you're following Jeff at JM Thrive PT and me. I'm at Calvin and Hobby. We're going to be joining with Addison tomorrow morning to talk live. So if you're around for the games, make sure you check us out. We're here to help you with your start sets. And with that, I'm Cal. He's Jeff, and we'll see you guys tomorrow morning.